Go with us for a moment. What if Doctor Who was real? I mean, it isn't, but what if it was? What are some of the coincidences and mysteries that could be interpreted as the greatest show in all of time and space happening out there in the great wide universe? I'm Ellie with Who Culture, here with 10 real things that prove Doctor Who exists. Number 10. A crack in time and space. The fine folks over at NASA are always finding oddities and amazing sights in the great wide universe, and back in 2006, they discovered this potentially hazardous link to one of Doctor Who's most famous series arcs. When observing infrared images from the Spitzer Space Telescope, astronomers noticed a strange shape. It was long and spindly, winding around like a large black snake. After much science was done, it was discovered that this is the core of a huge dark cloud that could, and we quote, swallow dozens of solar systems. This dark snake doesn't look a million miles away from the crack that Amelia Pond found on her bedroom wall. That particular crack turned out to be a gateway to an Atraxi prison, and other tears would reappear throughout the series before the universe was ended and then rebooted in the Pandorica Opens and the Big Bang. Like NASA's discovery, the cracks in Doctor Who were also capable of swallowing things they came into contact with, such as Scottish parents or dead nurses. If such a thing also exists in our own reality, does that mean the end of the universe is nigh? I really hope not. Number 9. The TARDIS in Utah. Imagine living thousands of years ago and stumbling across a piece of technology that is infinitely more advanced than anything you can even comprehend. It would completely and utterly blow your mind. Just ask old Caecilius. That leads us to this curious image, which depicts a cave painting where people can be seen worshipping something that looks suspiciously like the TARDIS. Horseshoe Canyon is an area of Utah in the United States known for its ancient pictographs. These pictures show people standing around a large box-like structure with what appears to be a light on top, congregating around it as if they're in awe. Clearly, one of the doctors took a trip back to ancient times and made quite the impression on the locals. The people the doctor leaves behind never forget their encounters. See Lorna Bucket joining the military just to get the chance to meet him again. And a TARDIS would no doubt be something these primitive folk would memorialise. We should of course mention that the doctor does visit Utah in the Series 6 premiere, along with Amy, Rory and River, the best character. Perhaps some unexplained force was drawing him back to a location he'd previously visited. I mean, it's probably a coincidence, but what if it's not? Number 8. Moving statues. The Weeping Angels might have doomed the Ponds, but they're still one of the most lauded villains in all of Who. The Angels were the brainchild of former showrunner Stephen Moffat, and the chilling real-life tale behind their creation is almost as creepy as the monsters themselves. The story goes that Moffat was out for a stroll one day while holidaying in Dorset, when he came across a graveyard that was sealed off to the public. He decided to investigate anyway, and found a lone Weeping Angel standing within. A few years later, Moffat returned to that same graveyard, only to find that the angel had vanished. It's possible that someone moved the statue in the several years between Moffat's two visits, but here's the spooky bit. He never found any evidence that the angel even existed. "I think I clearly saw a weeping angel," he said, "but I can't find it anywhere. I can't find it in the records." So, what if the statue was never meant to be there? What if it moved there of its own accord and left of its own accord? Certainly does make you wonder, doesn't it? Number 7. A familiar agitator. Eric Ludwig Henningsen was a painter who lived between 1855 and 1930. Over his lifetime, Henningsen created numerous works in the social realist style, mainly focusing on groups of underprivileged people. In the 19th century, he wasn't short of subjects. One of his works, 1899's An Agitator, depicts a scene from a major strike by Danish workers. A group of protesters watch on as a man gives a rousing speech, while police on horseback keep an eye out for any trouble. The speaker is wearing a brown suit, is very skinny, and has hair that can best be described as tousled, along with some impressive sideburns. You can see where this is going. It would be very in character of the 10th Doctor to get himself involved in a labour movement in the 1890s and inadvertently end up in a famous painting in the process. Not only would 10 love the attention and the chance to deliver a speech, but the Doctor is always looking out for ordinary people. As 11 would later explain, there isn't a person in the universe who isn't important. Number 6. Doctor Who? NASA has helped the human race expand its knowledge of the stars. Even in the face of skepticism and budget cuts, the organization continues to boldly go where no human has gone before. Haha, we like a lovely cross-reference to Star Trek. Oh, and they may have also discovered that Time Lords are real. In August 2023, the James Webb Space Telescope discovered a rather unusual shape some 1,400 light-years from Earth. In a new image of the forming stars Herbig Haro 46/47, just rolls off the tongue, that one, doesn't it? I also might have said it wrong. I apologize if I did. I don't really know stars. Anyway, we can see what appears to be a glowing question mark, just sitting there. But what could it mean? One of the overarching plot lines of Stephen Moffat's first few years in charge was the question. A question that must never be asked or answered. It was later revealed that this was actually a plot by the Time Lords to escape from their pocket universe, and that they were broadcasting said question throughout all of time and space. Doctor Who. If the question could take any shape, it would obviously be a question mark. So could the Time Lords be out there somewhere broadcasting their query for all to hear? And if so, will the Doctor respond? Number 5, a famous scarf. Before I even start this entry, I'm just going to apologise now for any really awful French pronunciations here. As you might have noticed, I'm not French, but I'll give it a go. Ambassadeur is a lithograph poster printed in 1892 by French artist Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec. Again, sorry if I just butchered those words. It depicts a man with wild hair standing triumphantly in the foreground with a long scarf wrapped around his neck. Sound familiar? This man bears more than a slight resemblance to Tom Baker's Fourth Doctor, despite the fact that the poster was released 82 years before Baker ever appeared in the role. Ambassadeur was actually used as an inspiration for the Fourth Doctor's look, specifically his iconic multicolored scarf. There's also a Fourth Doctor Big Finish story called The Demon of Paris that incorporates Ambassadeur into its plot, and the cover is even a cheeky wink to the original 1892 creation. So, what if the Fourth Doctor travelled back to 19th century France, met Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec, and the pair got along so famously that the artist decided to immortalise him? Like the timey-wimey loop of the Ponds naming their daughter after their daughter. Could Tom Baker's Fourth Doctor have been inspired by the real Fourth Doctor? My head hurts. Number 4, Sunset at Montmajour. Again, sorry for my awful French. Vincent and the Doctor features the TARDIS crew teaming up with Vincent van Gogh to battle an invincible creature and to convince the legendary painter that his work was actually worth something. Vincent would turn up later in the series painting an image of the TARDIS exploding, which predicted that this very same monumental event was to come. And as it turns out, the famous artist might have made allusions to the Doctor's faithful transport in his real-life work too. In Sunset at Montmajour, a beautiful landscape from 1888, Van Gogh depicts a natural scene complete with trees, a glowing sky, and a strange blue rectangle in the distance. A rectangle that looks oddly TARDIS-shaped at a glance. This building is actually Montmajour Abbey, but what if Vincent's adventure with the Doctor somehow, subconsciously, bled into the way he chose to paint it? There's no denying that it's a similar shape to the TARDIS, and it's even got the light on top. It's heartwarming to imagine Vincent actually having an adventure with the Doctor. Maybe he did get to visit that art gallery after all. Number 3, the Weeping Angel Effect. The Weeping Angel's main party trick is sending unfortunate victims back in time, but they're also known for their inability to move while being looked at. Combined with their lightning-quick speeds, this instantly made them one of the scariest monsters in Doctor Who history. As it turns out, there's something else that cannot move while being looked at, and to find out what it is, we must journey into the horrifyingly complicated world of quantum physics. Yikes. In 2015, researchers at Cornell University ran a series of experiments on atoms to simulate what would happen if somebody was constantly watching them without even blinking. Think of it as a reverse Schrodinger's cat, which is all about something not being seen. Their studies turned out some interesting results. If an atom is constantly being measured, then it never changes, effectively freezing it in place. This is the Weeping Angel effect. There's no denying that the science behind the Weeping Angels is fascinating, and if it's possible for things to freeze in place through mere observation, then we can speculate that the angels might actually exist. Just be careful the next time you're exploring an abandoned house, okay? And remember, don't turn your back, don't look away, and don't blink. Good luck. Number 2, Amy and Rory in 1959. The Weeping Angels were all too real for Amy and Rory Pond, who was zapped back in time by the Stone Assassins in The Angels Take Manhattan. Don't remind me, I don't need to cry again today. The Ponds were sent back to 1938, when they were in their early 20s, which would have put them somewhere in their 40s in 1959. Why is that important? Well, because of this painting. Created by Russian-American artist Raphael Soyer, Consolation depicts a man sat on a chair cradling a standing woman. It's an incredibly intimate piece, one worthy of two star-crossed lovers, perhaps? The male figure's face is a little distorted, but he looks exactly like everyone's favourite plastic Roman. As for the woman, she's the spitting image of Amy Pond. Red hair, round face, pale skin, the works. Soyer was known for painting everyday New Yorkers, and he spent a lot of time in the city around the same period that Amy and Rory lived there. Even the name Consolation sounds like the perfect word to sum up the Ponds' journey. Star-crossed lovers who've seen the universe. Perhaps Soyer was taken by the pair's devotion to one another, or maybe this was the Ponds' way of winking at the Doctor, planting themselves in the history books just as he did for them in The Impossible Astronaut. Number 1. Bigger on the inside. During the summer of 2023, news outlets across the world picked up on the testimonies of US Air Force whistleblower David Grush, who claimed that the American government was hiding alien spacecrafts from the public. Sounds like the X-Files to me. But this sparked numerous other claims that extraterrestrials had visited our world, and there was one particular revelation that Whovians went wild for. According to the Daily Mail, the lawyer for a separate whistleblower was told that they had seen a UFO that distorted space and time. Allegedly, the crew recovering this craft sent a man inside, and what he discovered was totally mind-blowing. Though the ship measured only 30 feet in diameter, the interior of the vessel was supposedly the size of a football stadium. In other words, it was bigger on the inside than it was on the outside. Though the Doctor's TARDIS is definitely not 30 feet wide, remember that not all Time Lord vehicles have broken chameleon circuits? This could mean that a real Gallifreyan has visited our world, or that this lawyer fell asleep while watching old reruns of Doctor Who. If this account is to be believed, it certainly makes you wonder if the Doctor is out there right now, battling aliens and doing all that running. Maybe they'll need to come to Earth to retrieve their ship. This wouldn't be the first time they've been separated from it after all. And that's everything for this list, but Doctor Who has popped up in all sorts of places, so why not check out 10 more times Doctor Who appeared in other TV shows. In the meantime, I've been Ellie with Who Culture, and in the words of Riversong herself, goodbye, sweeties.